Hello everyone, I am Kenshin. Welcome to History Talks. Today's historical chat is about the last Nazi hunter. Please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, share, and turn on notifications. Thank you. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, many war crimes emerged. For instance, 21-year-old Russian Sergeant Vadim Shishimarin was accused of shooting and killing an unarmed Ukrainian man riding a bicycle by the side of the road in the northeastern town of Chupakhivka, Ukraine, on February 28. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. The judge noted that, given that the crimes committed endangered peace, security, humanity, and the order of international law, the court believes there are no possibilities of sentencing a shorter period. Then, 2 more Russian soldiers were sentenced to 11.5 years in prison, but many more Russian soldiers guilty of war crimes have not yet received their due punishment. This reminds Kenshin that after the end of World War II, many Nazis changed their identities to escape trial, but many people still pursued them to expose their crimes. These people, known as Nazi hunters, include Dr. Efraim Zuroff, who the media calls the last hunter, the person Kenshin is going to talk about today. What is a Nazi hunter? Everyone knows that Nazi Germany launched the Holocaust during World War II, and even after the Nuremberg trials that held the Nazi war criminals accountable ended, many slipped through the net and escaped, assuming new identities in various parts of the world. Even though the youngest Nazi fugitives of the time are now old and frail, the spontaneous civilian operations to hunt down the remnants of the Nazis continue. These people are Nazi hunters. But why should they keep investigating? Let's first get to know Holocaust historian Dr. Efraim Zuroff, the chief Nazi hunter at the Simon Wiesenthal Center, and the director of the center's Israel Office and Eastern European Affairs Department. For 40 years, he has played an important role in assisting with the prosecution of Nazi war crimes. His 4 books have been translated into 15 languages, and he has written many articles on Holocaust-related issues and their impact on the Jewish world. He was also nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2008. In a BBC interview, he stated that there are many reasons to devote the rejuvenation and time of life to hunting Nazi fugitives, but the most important is that those people have never expressed regret and have no remorse for the crimes they committed. He added, "Over the years, I have never encountered a Nazi criminal who is remorseful, guilty and seeks atonement. Many friends are aware that after the end of World War II, many countries arrested Nazi members and traitors and handed them over to the courts for trial. But is that all? The Nuremberg trials only touched the tip of the iceberg. In every European country there are hundreds of cases, even thousands. In West Germany, between 1949 and 1985, 200,000 investigations were conducted, 120,000 prosecutions, and less than 7,000 cases were finally convicted." Zuroff stated. Even though the Nazis committed some of the most atrocious acts in human history, the civilian pursuit of missing Nazi suspects began to weaken from the 1960s. If you put a 90-year-old Nazi next to a serial killer, any normal country's police would pursue the serial killer, because they will continue to kill until they are caught. How likely is a 90-year-old Nazi to continue killing? 0. Why does he do this and what motivates him? Firstly, his name came from his great-uncle who was a Lithuanian Jewish rabbi and a victim of the Holocaust. He once visited his great-uncle's apartment. "I knew that my great-uncle was one of the victims. My emotional defense collapsed. It was a very strong emotional shock. My uncle, Rabbi Efraim Zal, was captured by a group of Lithuanian militiamen looking for bearded Jews in Vilnius on July 13, 1941. He was then jailed and was either killed there or massacred at Ponar with 70,000 other Jews. Unfortunately, he never found the killer. He then visited 35 Holocaust sites in Lithuania and 5 in Belarus. Every day we would go to 2 or 3 mass graves and recite prayers for the victims. I knew I was standing next to a huge pit that once held thousands of bodies. So let's have a look at who in his hands have been brought to justice." He managed to bring former Hungarian military officer Sándor Kepero to justice. After many years of effort, This case was brought to court in Budapest in 2011. Kepiro was one of 15 Hungarian officers who participated in the Novi Sad massacre in January 1942, which resulted in more than 3,000 deaths. In 1944, Kepiro and others were convicted for an unauthorized action, but the authorities took no action against these officers. It took him 5 years of effort for this case and even went to Novi Sad to meet the survivors. But in the end, he was told by the court that he could not accept or receive evidence. The next day, as I waited to return to Israel, I could hardly control my tears, but in any case, I think of the victims, the survivors. What they went through is much worse than what I experienced. Zuroff recalls this failure in this way. Zuroff's greatest success was the conviction of the last confirmed living Nazi concentration camp commander, Dinko Sakic. Sakic was in charge of the Jasenovac concentration camp in present-day Croatia in 1944. At that time up to 100,000 people were killed in this concentration camp. Because of his effort, Sakic was brought to court and sentenced to 20 years imprisonment on October 4, 1998. After the verdict, when Zuroff left the court, a tall man stopped him and expressed his thanks. This man was the brother of a Montenegrin doctor, Milo Boskovic, who was detained in that concentration camp in 1944. Milo Boskovic told Sakic he didn't want to be hanged, but then he pulled out his handgun and shot himself in the head, dying on the spot. Why did he have to kill him? It turns out, Dr. Boskovic was chosen at random, simply because Sakic wanted to punish prisoner resistance activities. I can assure you, his brother couldn't even dream that a democratic Croatia would put the great national hero Dinko Sakic on trial, but it really happened. Much to Zuroff's expectation, Sakic showed no remorse and no guilt, a typical Nazi attitude towards their crimes, in his view. He is closely watching the progress of 2 Nazi suspects being tried in German courts. A 100-year-old, Joseph Schutz, has been charged with serving as a guard at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp in Germany for more than 3 years and participating in murder in 3,512 cases. Another defendant is 96-year-old Irmgard Furchner. From June 1943 to April 1945, she was employed at the Stutthof concentration camp near Gdansk in contemporary Poland, serving as the commander's secretary. During that time, 10,430 prisoners were killed. As long as these efforts can continue, theoretically, these people cannot sleep in peace. They are not sure when someone will come knocking at the door, said Dr. Zuroff. He believes that time cannot lessen the atrocities. Old age should not be a reason for leniency in horrific crimes. Once the lawsuit is successful, it can uphold justice for victims and their families and serve as a deterrent to potential perpetrators in the future. But 74-year-old Zuroff has 15 grandchildren. He is very aware that the remaining Nazis are likely to die before his grandchildren come of age. He is of course proud that his efforts have helped to maintain the memory of the Holocaust, and he believes that the Nazi hunter method can also be used to bring other suspects accused of crimes against humanity to justice, such as when he was invited to provide expertise advice after the Rwandan genocide in 1994. In Rwanda, most judges were murdered during the genocide, the courts were destroyed. Even first world countries cannot uphold justice for such crimes, it's impossible. Even when trying genocide perpetrators, finding solutions to the related legal, logistical and political challenges is a massive task, but he has no plans to give up. I didn't choose this because it's easy. I chose this out of a sense of responsibility and obligation to the murder victims. Zuroff said. As for the prosecutor of Hisham Alam's trial, Sunyuk, Andriy Sunyuk, has suggested that trials should continue for other war crimes committed by Russian soldiers and that this case sends an important message. He said, I think the other law enforcement agencies in Ukraine will follow this judgment. This is a good warning to the aggressors who are planning to occupy us but have not yet violated our territory. For those who are already on our territory, ready to stay and fight, perhaps they will think twice and think it's time to leave here, go back to their places. Ukraine's Attorney General Venediktova, Irina Venediktova, also believes that it can send a strong message to Russian soldiers, not to kill Ukrainian civilians lightly. If they commit these atrocities—killing, rape, looting, abuse—we will find every one and prosecute every one, making them accountable for their brutal actions.